Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from the Overflow room. And today we have two very, very, very different American composers. First, Aaron J. Kernis. I have quite a bit of Kernis. He was born in 1960. So he's about like a year older than I am. And he started making a bit of a splash with these Argo recordings. I've got three of them. I forget what the first one was, but I've got four of them, pardon me. And they stuck by him. They stood by him, stuck by him, stood by him for a while. This was 1997. So, it was about almost 30 years ago. When he was young, I was young, we were young, and he was considered something of a wunderkind. His music combined minimalism with some sort of pop rock influences, and it was tonal and listenable, and I think it's worn pretty well, to be honest with you. I still enjoy it, and we have here, let's see what we have, Colored Field, which is his English horn concerto, with the San Francisco Symphony under Alistair Neal. And who's playing the English horn? Does it ever tell us? Well, Julianne Jacobassi, I guess. Pamela Frank, Paul Neubauer, Carter Bray, Christopher O'Reilly, and all these other people. So yes, there it is. Yes, Julianne Jacobassi is the English horn player. She's very, very good. And still movement with him, with Pamela Frank, violin, and Paul Neubauer, viola, Carter Bray, cello, Christopher O'Reilly, piano. So that's really, that's one disc. And then we had his second symphony. Oh, I remember this one particularly well. I've actually listened to this one fairly recently. The City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra under Hugh Wolf, our old Johns Hopkins Glee Club conductor. The second symphony, which is really powerful piece. The movements are alarm, air/ground, then barricade, Musica Celestis for string orchestra. That got a lot of airplay because it was called Celestis and it was for string orchestra. So, it had the right credentials to be a popular favorite. And Invisible Mosaic 3. So these are fun. And then there's Symphony in Waves. Symphony in Waves is beautiful work. And Musica Celestis String Quartet. There's a string quartet version, a long piece. It's a multi-movement piece, Musica Celestis for string orchestra. I think it's just a bit of it here. And so we have the Lark Quartet doing the string quartet. The Symphony in Waves is with the New York Chamber Symphony of the 92nd Street Y with Gerard Schwartz. And I used to play at the 92nd Street Y, not unfortunately in the professional orchestra. I was in the reading orchestra. But we gave a couple concerts, and we did a children's concert with Peter and the Wolf every year and all that. Symphony Waves is big work. Ambitious, powerful, very well written, and enjoyable. Then we've got the Air for Violin with Joshua Bell and the Minnesota Orchestra and David Zinman. The Double Concerto for Violin and Guitar with Cho Lang Lin and Sharon Isbin. I mean, they got first-rate artists to do these things, which is really fabulous. He won the 1998 Pulitzer Prize for Music, so there you go. And the Lament and Prayer with Pamela Frank again, violin, and the Minnesota Orchestra and David Zinman, which is 26 minutes. He says on the back here, Andrew Porter, the New Yorker, wrote, Kernis's invention is exuberant. Gramophone says his exceptional gifts seem certain to win him an international audience. I've actually seen some of his stuff fairly recently. I guess it was certainly within the past year. So he hasn't disappeared entirely after Argo tanked and all the stuff went out of print. But it's so hard these days to keep your head above water. I mean, to keep your name before the public. And Kernis in the 1990s was a thing. And he deserves to be a thing today. He really does. He's a serious composer with a distinctive voice, and he writes music that isn't stupid and that normal people can enjoy. And that's saying a lot. That really is. So that's that. That's Kernis, and I'm happy to be able to talk about him. Again after a considerable amount of time has gone by. There's just so much music out there. Fortunately, let's face it, history will sift. And in 100 or 200 years, we'll know who the, big names from our own era were. Some people ask me, they write to me and they say, who are the composers of the future? Why isn't there any music? Well, that's not true. Kernis is an excellent example. There is good music being written. There is good music that stands the chance of survival. It's just that we're not going to make that decision. But it's out there. I believe that it's out there. I have faith that it's out there. And I hear composers like this, and I hear works by Kernis and other contemporary colleagues, and I say to myself, we're okay. We're not in such bad shape. There will be stuff that will, the cream will rise to the top, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Or I'll be wrong, and we'll all be destroyed, and the sun will turn into a red giant and toast the earth, and we'll all be burnt to a crisp. One or the other. So then we've got, Showboat. Kern, Jerome Kern. He's not Kernis, he's Kern. He's Kernis missing the is. This was a big deal. This recording, first of all, it made John McGlynn's career. And what a nice guy he was. I knew him so well, and we used to talk all the time. And, he was doing all of this, original Broadway stuff with original scores and original orchestrations. He really wanted nothing more than to conduct The Dream of Gerontius. And I kept saying to him, why? Why? I don't know. And he died a very early and untimely death. It was very sad. But this was a big deal when this came out, because this was like one of the first American music theater pieces. Well, first of all, Showboat itself was a revolution, an earthquake in American musical theater. A serious story with richly textured characterization and tons of music. I mean, it was never performed complete. The whole thing is 3 hours and 30 some odd minutes. I mean, it's Wagnerian in length. And the cast is amazing. Frederica von Stade, Jerry Hadley, Teresa Stratas, Bruce Hubbard, Carla Burns. I mean, really, really fabulous. Even Nancy Culp is in here. And Lillian Gish. Remember Nancy Culp from the Beverly Hillbillies? Yeah, she's on here. They spared no expense. I mean, this was in 1988, when, the classical music business still had money, and they were willing to just pull out all the stops. The production itself caused some controversy. I mean, there's a whole thing in here about how, the African American singers had to get permission to use the N-word. They were talking amongst themselves and with, civil rights leaders. It was a big, big deal. And it's a fabulous performance. And the only one you'll get of the whole thing, so that's amazing. And then we've got this version of Showboat, the world premiere cast recording. I have no idea what that means. I can't even read who is in this thing. I mean, this was not the world premiere cast recording. I don't know what that means, because it was done fairly recently. Here we go. I can read it this way. It was a new Broadway production, and it was a very successful Broadway production. It won all kinds of awards. It has a huge cast. It was recorded, here we go, on October 17, 1993 in Toronto. And I have this because, first of all, it's a beautiful performance. It's obviously it's not the whole thing. It's the songs and much less of it. But it had Greta Boston as Queenie. And I worked with Greta in co-op and condo development. She worked in the offering plan department, and in the 1980s, and she was at that point training to be a classical contralto. I saw her in a amateur production of Cavalleria Rusticana, but she gave up classical stuff to do popular music and Broadway. She was tremendously talented, and she won a Tony for this recording of Showboat, and she sounds gorgeous. When she sings Misery's Coming Around, oh boy, you believe it. She has a glorious voice. She also showed up on Law and Order at one point. I mean, she's had a career, and it was really a joy for me to watch that happen. So, if you're out there, Greta, all the best. And this is a really, really fine recording of Showboat, a modern production. So I'm not sure what this world premiere cast recording means. I really don't. It's not the world premiere of the musical. Maybe it was the Canadian world premiere cast. I don't know, because this was done in Canada, apparently, or recorded in Canada. But it's beautiful sounding, and you've got 22 tracks from the larger musical. And what a great musical it is. It really is. So there you have it, my friends. Kernis and Kern in the K's from the Overflow room. Keep on listening and take care.